You can repair and repaint your bumper at home with budget materials, budget tools, and no paint booth. And I can show you how. Howdy, howdy, everybody. Chris here. We're back in the garage today. Today we're working on a Chevy Trax. So this is a repair that you can easily do at home. We've got some bumper damage right here. Just a little scuff on the edge of this bumper. We're going to fix this up today. I'm going to share with you how we do it, walk you through step by step the entire process. So let's get into it. Okay, the first step is we're going to remove this bumper because we've got to break it down so we can clear the entire bumper. Now, if you're doing this at home, you could just repair these scratches and blend your clear coat like in here or down in here and still get a really good paint job. So you would burn in the clear right here, in the small areas. I've got some videos on how to burn in clear. You can check those out. I'll leave a tag up here. In this case, we're going to be clearing the entire bumper. So we're going to repair the damage, blend the color in there, and then clear the entire bumper cover. But Darius is going to remove this bumper, break it down, and we'll move on to the next step. Okay, it looks like Darius has got this all stripped down. Well, what he's going to do now is we're going to machine sand this smooth. Maybe hand sand it smooth with some 320 grit sandpaper. All we want to do is get that paint edge smoothed out and see if there's any gouges that we need to repair. But I think most of this is just going to sand out with some 320 sandpaper. And then what we'll do is we'll apply 2 coats of 2K urethane primer over this. For this repair, Darius chose to use this 3-inch orbital sander made by Astro. It's a really handy little sander. We don't use it a ton, but in certain situations, this thing works out perfectly. We want to keep this repair very small, so using a small sander helps tremendously. Now, we are using 320 grit sandpaper on this just to feather sand that edge of paint to get it smoothed out. We didn't have any gouges in this, so Darius was able to sand out that paint edge, smooth it out, and then what he did is he prepped around that repair area with some 600 grit sandpaper on this foam pad. A 600 grit scratch is going to promote adhesion of that new clear. There's no damage on the rest of this bumper, so all we have to do is prep it out for clear coat. We do that by sanding it with 600 grit sandpaper so we have a coarse enough scratch so that clear coat adheres properly. And the reason he's doing it before we primer this area is because we want the surface around that repair area to be prepped out in case we get some overspray. We don't want that primer landing on an unsanded surface. Here, Darius is just using some water-based cleaner, some spray-away glass cleaner to clean this surface before he starts the masking process. Darius is going to use some soft edge masking foam to kind of create a border of where we don't want that primer to go to protect the rest of the bumper cover. He'll mask it off with masking paper. Now, we're not going to spray primer right up to that foam tape. We want to keep the primer as small as possible. So we're just going to be covering the repair area. Any overspray is going to get sanded off when we prep out the rest of this bumper for paint. The primer we're going to be using for this repair is Upol 2253V. I've talked about this primer a bunch on this channel. In fact, we made a video last week about how to mix this primer. If you haven't seen that video, definitely check it out. This primer can be used as a high build primer, a primer surfacer, or a sealer. We're going to use it as a primer surfacer here, which is just basically a thinner primer that can be easily sanded. Because we don't have any deep scratches or body work to repair here, all we need to do is put 2 coats of urethane primer on this, letting it flash off 15 minutes in between coats, and that is just going to protect the surface, keep our base coat from soaking in and creating issues in our finished product. The primer gun Darius is using is the original R500. We've got a 1.5 tip in it. And to be very precise with where he's applying this primer, he's narrowed the fan pattern down and turned the air pressure way down so he can be very precise with where he puts his primer. Darius is applying the second coat here, so he let the first coat flash off for 10 to 15 minutes. Now he's applying the second coat. He went ahead and prepped this primer out for paint off camera. He started the sanding process on this repair with 320 grit sandpaper just to lightly scuff it, remove any texture. He didn't want to break through the primer, so it was just a light sanding with 320, and then he went over it with 600 and smoothed everything out to get it ready for base and clear coat. If you're interested in a digital step-by-step guide on this process and other topics like how to use body filler, how to prepare primer for paint, how to spray clear coat, you can find those in the description of this video or go to my Shopify store at garagenoisegear.com. It's a great way to support the channel, and it's a perfect tool that you can use when you're repairing your project at home. Darius has got this bumper all ready for paint. He prepped the entire bumper with 600 grit sandpaper. He also used a 1500 grit scuff pad, gray scuff pad, to get in all the tight areas. Of course, he sanded out the primer with that 320 and then went over it with 600. So I'm just going to wash this one more time, but let's mix up the paint first. So this is a tri-stage paint. We're going to mix up the base color and the pearl. We'll get those ready to go. We're going to put an adhesion promoter over this really quickly, because some of these tight areas, it's hard to get sanded absolutely perfect. So we're just going to hit it with a little bit of adhesion promoter that also acts as a flex agent. So these are the two colors we got. This is the original color. It's 294F. Now the pearl that goes over top of this is a very expensive pearl, so we found an alternative to that, which is this ruby red pearl. This is a Ford ruby red. The 294F, we're putting this Ford ruby red pearl over top of it. It's such a small area that we're painting that you will never notice if there is a color difference. So we're not going to need a ton of paint. So this Nason XL mixes up 2:1. So we're going to the 2:1 mixing ratio. Put my slow urethane reducer in. In the 2 column, we put the amount of paint we wanted. We went to the number 1. Now we need to go to the coordinating one in the 1 column. That's for the urethane reducer. Just mix this up. So this pearl mixes up 2:1 as well. Find the 2:1 mixing ratio. If you look at this, you can see how it's transparent. So that is the pearl. There's the reducer. We're going to use the Inokraft Drizzle D1 low volume, low pressure paint gun. Our paint's ready. Let's wash this real quick and then we'll tack rag it off. We got our alcohol here. This Inokraft Drizzle D1 is the best budget paint gun on the market today. Low volume, low pressure paint gun. It's going to consume less air, produce less overspray, and you're going to be amazed with the type of finish this gun produces. We'll hit it with our adhesion promoter. Mainly I'm concerned about in the cracks and crevices. These edges. I'm just going to open this fan pattern. I'm going to adjust it once we hook this up. But we're going to go 2 turns out on the fluid volume. We'll adjust the air pressure probably about 20 psi, somewhere right around there. We want to narrow the fan pattern because we don't need a big wide fan pattern. We want to keep that paint dialed into where we need it. What about there? I'm not pulling the trigger all the way. I just want to get one good coat of paint on this primer area. Get that primer covered. We'll let it set up for about 15 minutes. Let it flash off, and then we'll put on our second coat. Here we go with the second coat of base. We'll make sure that primer is covered, and then we'll start blending it out into the panel just a little bit. Remember, we've got to leave room to blend that pearl coat as well. So this is a very small area, so we got to make sure we're not blending it too far out with the base because we have to blend that pearl. All right, we're going to put the pearl coat on. We're just going to do one coat and we'll blend it out into the rest of the panel. This is not going to change the color of this if at all. It's just going to be a little translucent. It's just going to give that color a little pop. So we'll blend it out and then we'll apply our clear coat. That's all we're going to do right there. All right, see how it gave it just a little pop? There we go. There we go. All right, let's put our clear on. Okay, so the clear we're using today is the Sherwin-Williams FC710. This is a spot panel clear. Dries a little bit quicker, but produces a really nice high gloss finish. This is a high solids clear, and it mixes up 4 to 1. So we'll add our 4 parts clear and then 1 part of the activator. And we are using slow activator today. I really like this FC710 for small spot panel jobs where we're just doing a couple panels. Because the clear coat dries a little bit quicker, it's able to be buffed and polished very easy the next day. So I let it dry overnight, and then I have no issues getting those fine scratches out if I have to wet sand and buff it. As far as the gun adjustments on this Inokraft Drizzle D1 low volume, low pressure paint gun, it's a little bit different for clear coat. We're going to open our fan pattern up wide open. We'll adjust our fluid volume to 3 turns out from close. So I close it all the way. I open it up 3 complete turns. And then my air pressure, I want to run it at about 28 PSI. This gun works really well between 28 and 30 PSI for clear coat. As far as the spraying techniques for clear coat, I'm just going to work my way from one end of the bumper to the other, making sure I get the edges really well. We're going to overlap our passes about 75%. So what that means is when I make a pass, I overlap that previous pass 75%. You want to make sure you have a consistent speed and a consistent distance from the panel. As you're spraying, you want to evaluate how that clear coat's laying down on the panel. Make sure you're getting the finish that you're looking for. Couple little particles of dust in it, but we'll hit it with the second coat. Okay, so the first coat's looking pretty dang decent. We've got a few little particles of dust that we might have to cut and buff out. Some of that will get buried in the second coat. I put the first coat on pretty wet, but I consider the first coat like a tack coat. You're just really introducing that clear to the surface. So when you apply your second coat, it's really going to stick well. It's going to flow out nicely, and it's going to give you that high gloss, smooth finish that you're looking for. Depending on the temperature, you want to let your first coat of clear flash off for about 10 to 15 minutes. If it's a little bit warmer, it's not going to take as long to flash off. We'll test it by touching an area that's not noticeable and make sure it's tacky and not stringy. That'll kind of give us an idea when it's ready for the second coat. Oh yeah, looks perfect, man. Looks perfect. Looks pretty good. Inokraft Drizzle D1. Look at that color. It's pretty color. Blend looks fantastic. Color match is great. Another little chunk of dust right there. Nice flow out. All right, happy with it. There's where we repaired. As you can see, the color matches beautifully. No issues. So that's the second time I've done that. I've used the Ford Pearl over top of the Chevy color, and it's worked out beautifully both times. Little trick. I think the code on this is 294F. That's the base. And then for the Pearl, Ford Ruby Red Pearl. Another one down the road. We'll move on to the next one. Listen, I appreciate each and every one of you watching. If you found this information helpful, Give me a like and subscribe to the channel. I have over 500 how-to videos to teach you about auto body and paint repair. So if you want to build your skill, subscribe now. Appreciate you watching. We'll see you on the next episode of Garage Noise. Today we're working on this. What is this? This isn't the color. Damn it.